Have you ever wondered how we went from simple fire arrows to rockets that take us to space? Buckle up, because we're going on a journey through time. Believe it or not, the first rockets weren't made for space, they were weapons. More than 1,000 years ago, the Chinese invented fire arrows using gunpowder. These weren't powerful, but they were the beginning of rocket science. They were small tubes filled with gunpowder and attached to an arrow shaft, which was lit on fire and shot toward the enemy. The fire arrows could fly for short distances and caused fires or distractions. Fast forward to the 1600s, and we meet a brilliant English scientist named Isaac Newton. He was busy watching apples fall from trees, probably wondering why they always fall straight down, when he discovered something super important for space travel. Newton realized that everything in the universe is affected by forces that make things move. And one of his most famous laws, known as Newton's third law, says, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. This is exactly how rockets blast off. When a rocket's engines push out hot gases downwards, the opposite reaction is the rocket going upward. Think of it like when you jump off a trampoline. When you push down, the trampoline pushes you back up. Same idea, just a little more explosive. Then, in the early 1900s, a genius named Robert Goddard took Newton's ideas and pushed them into action. He's often called the father of modern rocketry. In 1926, Goddard successfully launched the first liquid-fueled rocket. Before him, rockets were powered by solid fuel, which wasn't very efficient for space travel. But Goddard's liquid rocket was much more powerful, and it even went higher than ever before, making space travel seem less like a dream and more like a real possibility. But, rockets weren't just shooting into space for fun back then. They were the beginning of something much bigger, and that bigger thing was space exploration. Imagine being one of the first people to see a rocket zoom off the ground for the very first time. Everything we now take for granted, like astronauts traveling to the moon, started because of the hard work and creativity of people like Isaac Newton and Robert Goddard. Pretty amazing, right? Then came the space race. It was the ultimate competition between the USA and the USSR to see who could be the first to conquer space. And the first big step was the launch of Sputnik 1 in 1957. It wasn't much, just a shiny metal ball with antennas, but it was a huge deal. The Soviet Union had officially beaten the US into space, and suddenly, everyone was wondering, if they can send a satellite, can they send a person next? Just 12 years later, in 1969, the Saturn V rocket blasted off from Earth and carried Apollo 11 all the way to the moon. First quarter moon Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin took their historic steps on the lunar surface, while Michael Collins stayed in orbit above in the command module. That giant leap for mankind was actually made possible by decades of rocket science and testing. The Saturn V rocket was enormous, as tall as a 36-story building. It had enough power to launch 7,000 cars into space. Imagine the ground shaking as that beast took off. There was no way to miss it. And remember, this was 1969, before smartphones or YouTube. People had to watch it on TV with tiny black and white screens, gathering in front of their TVs in awe. Talk about a monumental moment in history. So, from Sputnik's tiny beeping ball to the giant Saturn V, it was clear that humanity was ready to break free from Earth's gravity and take its first steps into the cosmos. Today, rockets don't just go up, they come back down. Thanks to companies like SpaceX, we've got reusable rockets that can fly, land, and fly again, just like a super-powered airplane. Rocket collision. This makes space travel cheaper, and soon, we might be zooming off to Mars. Milky Way. Who knew rockets could be so eco-friendly? And the best part? Watching rockets land is like watching magic. You can't help but think, how did they do that? With reusable rockets, the future of space is looking faster, cheaper, and more exciting than ever. What do you think the future of rockets will look like? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome science videos.